Welcome back to Movie Rewind. Today, we will be looking back at the movie Knock Knock. The film opens with Evan and Karen, a happy couple living in California with their 2 children and a little dog. Evan is an architect, while Karen is preparing for her big exhibition. Karen's assistant Louis enters while the family is seated at the table for breakfast. He brings in some catalogs for her exhibition. The children are preparing for a weekend trip to the beach with their mother. Karen informs Evan that his physical therapist, Vivian, will be there for him the following day. The kids beg him to come with them on the weekend, but he has to stay home and work. When they leave, Evan uses his fancy turntable to listen to music while working on his computer. It is a rainy night. He receives a call from Karen informing him that they already miss him. Evan continues to create 3D printed models of his designs well into the night. Later on, he hears a knock at the door. When he answers, he sees 2 girls searching for a person whose name he doesn't know. He reluctantly let them in so they could use his computer to find the correct address they needed to go to. When the girls enter, Evan gets some towels, but they are in another area of the house when he returns. The first girl's name is Genesis, and the blonde girl introduces herself as Belle. Genesis requests the address and then realizes that they mispronounced the street's name to the driver and he has brought them a long way from their intended location. Evan calls them an Uber and succeeds in getting one that will arrive in 45 minutes. The girls deliberate for a moment before asking Evan if they could dry their clothes so they wouldn't arrive at their party sopping wet. Evan agrees and finds some extra robes for them. In addition to making them tea, he tries to dry their phone in some rice. He hears the girls laughing and playing music on his old turntable as he loads their clothes into the dryer. They are dancing when he enters the room and immediately begins discussing his enormous record collection. Evan reveals to them that in his 20s, he was a DJ. They express surprise at his age and comment that he looks younger. Evan explains that he was married young and his wife and children are away for the weekend. He gets a bear hug from the girls after they feel bad that he was left home alone. Genesis begins groping him and remarks that he is far too ripped to be his age. Evan starts to feel uneasy. When Belle sees a photo of his wife, she tells him he's lucky. He settles down a bit and gushes about Karen and her creations. Finding out that Karen is the artist behind every piece of art in the home astounds the girls. Evan displays Karen's exhibition catalog to the girls after Genesis claims she has a degree in art history. The girls are impressed by his wife and admit they make an attractive couple. Then, when they inquire about his love life, Evan becomes a little uneasy and explains that he is not accustomed to girls discussing their sexual activities in such an open manner. They make fun of him and remark that he suddenly sounds old. He anxiously checks on the Uber. They ask when he got married to Karen, and he replies that it has been some time. They also ask if she is the only woman he has been with since, to which he responds that when a couple naturally loves each other, it happens that way. He is opposed by the girls, who have a lot to say about human nature and monogamy. Belle informs him that she is aware her future husband will desire sexual relations with other women. Her future husband would never cheat on her if she had threesomes after she got married, which is her solution to the problem. Evan makes a nervous second check on the Uber. Genesis starts to dance at some point, which motivates Evan to DJ for her. He locates another record to combine with the one he is playing, and Belle is impressed by his skills. Belle tells him she's glad they knocked on his door because they were having much more fun than at the party they were supposed to attend. When the Uber arrives unexpectedly, she tries to kiss him while playing with him. Evan gets their clothes and phone, while Belle gets Genesis, who made her way to another part of the house. He goes to the door, but when the girls don't come, he goes to look for them. He discovers they are in the bathroom and walks over to give them their clothes. Unfortunately, they're naked. Evan starts out stuffy, telling them their Uber is waiting and pleading with them to get dressed. But when they both touch him, he quickly caves. When no one returns his calls, the Uber driver drives away. The girls join Evan for a threesome in the bathtub and later in his bed, where they all nod off simultaneously. When Evan wakes up in bed, He assumes they have already left, but is horrified to discover them messing around and laughing in the kitchen. It dawns on him that he has a problem on his hands. Just then, he gets a call from his wife. He rushes outside to answer the phone, and as they converse for a while, the two girls approach the glass door and try to expose him. He turns to get away from them, but Karen notices he's preoccupied, so they hang up. He waits outside for them because he is determined to drive them home. He enters again and finds them both painting on top of Karen's sculpture. At this point, he is furious and attempts to call the police, but they inform him that they lied about being flight attendants and are actually minors. This is a problem for him because he had sex with them the previous night. Evan resorts to paying them off, but they become offended and claim they are not whores. The doorbell rings. It is Vivian, his therapist. He tries to get her to go, but then Genesis comes out. Vivian gets upset because she loves his wife and is disappointed he would cheat on her. He tries to explain, but she leaves angrily. Furious, he calls the police to report a break-in. Genesis cuts the call short, and they finally accept the offer for a ride. He drops them off and returns home. He starts to clean up the mess and even returns to work. He thinks he has escaped the situation unscathed, but he is wrong. It's dark out when he hears glass breaking into the house. The girls are back, and Genesis hits him over the head with one of his wife's sculptures. Evan wakes up tied to the bed. The girls toy with him and threaten to tell on him. It is clear that they have daddy issues as they accuse him of being a bad dad and husband. Belle makes love to him while Genesis records it on his phone. Evan escapes the restraint but gets stabbed by Genesis with a fork. He passes out from the pain and they tie him up again. When he comes to, Genesis starts playing noises through his turntable. It hurts his ears, but the girls continue their games. The doorbell rings. It is Louis, and he has come over to pick up the sculpture. The girls hide Evan in another room and even try to seduce Louis to throw him off, but he knows something is off. He uncovers Evan and begins to get him out of his restraints, but decides to deal with the girls first when he hears them destroying the sculpture. Unfortunately, he gets an asthma attack from the panic. The girls hide his inhaler. He tries to retrieve it when he loses his balance and breaks his head on the sculpture's base. Evan begs them to call an ambulance. Instead, they cover the dead body with paper, making a sculpture out of him. They destroy all of Karen's sculptures and even find a gun in the process. They use it to force Evan into a hide-and-seek game. Evan is shocked to see that they have dug a grave in the yard. The girls roll him to the grave and begin to bury him. They leave his head above the ground as he continues to beg for his life. Genesis grabs a sculpture, pretending to drop it on his head, but drops it next to him. He begins to cry, and they laugh, saying that they weren't going to kill him. They admit that they are not underage, and that their game will end with one more action. They post the recording of Evan and Belle making love on Facebook. They leave the phone in front of him and leave the house. Evan tries to delete the video, but likes it instead. The movie ends with his family returning home the next day and facing the absolute mess that the girls left behind.